Now we will discuss about the middle cranial fossa. We have discussed in detail about the anterior cranial fossa, and you already know the anterior cranial fossa is separated from the middle by the anterior limit of sulcus chiasmaticus and posterior margin of lesser ring of sphenoid, and posteriorly from the posterior cranial fossa by the superior border of petrous temporal bone and dorsum sellae, which is a part of sella turcica. So when you view here, the middle cranial fossa is like a butterfly, and it contains hypophysis cerebri or pituitary gland in the middle and a temporal lobe on the each side. You can see temporal lobe will lodge here. The floor of the fossa is like a butterfly. You can see in the middle it lodges pituitary gland or hypophysis cerebri on either side laterally. You can see temporal lobes. And coming to the bones forming the middle cranial fossa, you will appreciate here that is sphenoid bone, this is petrous bone, and you also see the squamous part here, the squamous part of temporal bone. You will see petrous part of temporal bone and the squamous part of the temporal bones here. So these are the bones, and on either side you can see some parts of anterior inferior angle of parietal bone also. And this middle cranial fossa is divided into a small median part and a pair of extended lateral parts. You can appreciate the central part where the hypophysis will be lodging, that is called as median part, where temporal lobes lodge on each side, they are called as lateral parts. And when you see the median part, it is formed by the upper surface of the body of the sphenoid, that you see, that is the body of the sphenoid, and presents sulcus chiasmaticus there. This is the body, and that is body of the sphenoid. It is presenting the sulcus chiasmaticus that you can see here, that is sulcus chiasmaticus. What you see a sulcus here, it is separated from the jugum by the anterior limit of sulcus, and posteriorly it has the dorsum sellae, which is a part of sella turcica, that you see, this whole thing is there, sulcus chiasmaticus, sella turcica there. And you also see carotid groove on each side. If you see in this sagittal view, it presents a carotid groove. This is sella turcica, Turkish saddle, like a U shape. You can see it is formed by tuberculum sellae, pituitary fossa, and dorsum sellae behind. This projection is called as dorsum sellae here, that is carotid groove, what you see on either side of the body of the sphenoid, whereas this one is dorsum sellae. So what are the parts you see here in the median part of the middle cranial fossa? Sulcus chiasmaticus, dorsum sellae, part of tuberculum sellae, dorsum sellae, and this pituitary fossa together form sella turcica, and on either side of the body you will see carotid groove. So sella turcica, sulcus chiasmaticus, and carotid groove, these three things you will appreciate in the median part of the middle cranial fossa. Carotid groove is like a italic F shape on either side, lodging the internal carotid artery or carotid siphon, which is passing through cavernous sinus there. You have already studied about the dural venous sinuses. You know the cavernous sinus lodge on either side of the body of the sphenoid. Coming to sulcus chiasmaticus, sulcus chiasmaticus is a shallow transverse groove which leads on each side to the optic canal, and optic chiasma does not lodge here in the sulcus but lies slightly above it. So it is not actually lodging the chiasma here, but it is a shallow groove. On either ends it will lead into optic canal. Optic canal is directed forwards and laterally, opens into the orbit, and it is bound by the two roots of lesser ring of sphenoid, this optic canal, and medially by the body of the sphenoid. You can see the two roots of the lesser ring of sphenoid, that is the body of the sphenoid. So optic canal, you can see Y shaped roots of the lesser wing and medially body. And when you see the optic canal here, it is transmitting the optic nerve and ophthalmic artery infralateral to it. You can see right and left optic canals transmitting the right and left optic nerve. Infralaterally you will see a part of ophthalmic artery there passing through optic canal. So what are the structures passing through optic canal? Optic nerve and ophthalmic artery. Ophthalmic artery is a terminal branch of the internal cavitary artery, one of the terminal branches, and this is sella turcica. It resembles a Turkish saddle here. I already told it is formed by three contents: tuberculum sellae, pituitary fossa, and this projecting dorsum sellae. That is tuberculum sellae, the posterior limit of sulcus chiasmaticus. This is hypophyseal fossa or pituitary fossa, depression which contains the pituitary gland and forms the floor, and dorsum sellae, the square-like plate of the bone which is projecting upward and presents there. And you can see the tuberculum sellae on either side presents the middle clinoid process, that is fossa, and here dorsum sellae, and on either side the dorsum sellae presents posterior clinoid process. On either side tuberculum sellae presents middle clinoid process, whereas on either side dorsum sellae presents posterior clinoid process. You can see. So anterior clinoid process is a part of lesser wing of sphenoid, middle clinoid process is a part of tuberculum sellae, dorsum sellae on either side presents posterior clinoid process. So we should remember these three clinoid processes: anterior, middle, and posterior. And you can see this is a pituitary fossa. You can see there it is lodging the pituitary gland covered by the diaphragma sellae, dural fold, that is diaphragma sellae. This pituitary fossa is roofed by that, and in the middle it has a passage for the, what you can say, infundibulum of the pituitary gland. Here you will see the diaphragma sellae like this, bridging between the tuberculum sellae and dorsum sellae, overlying the fossa. So this tuberculum sellae, dorsum sellae, this hypophyseal fossa together form sella turcica, Turkish saddle, and this is how the diaphragma sellae covers it. In the sagittal section you are seeing, and from the above it looks like this. And you should hold your dry skull to appreciate all these features. I am requesting you to hold a dry skull. What is that? That is tuberculum sellae. On either side presents what? Middle clinoid process. Tuberculum sellae is the posterior limit of sulcus chiasmaticus. Middle clinoid process, and middle and anterior are usually connected by a ligament. That green structure, what you see, carotidoclinoid ligament, beneath which or within which the internal carotid artery will travel. The siphon, carotid siphon will form here. Yeah, and here the carotid artery, internal carotid artery will give 5 terminal branches. Ophthalmic artery is one of them, passing through the optic canal, that is pituitary fossa, containing pituitary gland, and bridged by which dural fold, diaphragma sellae, dorsum sellae, a square-like projection of the bone. On either side it presents what? Posterior clinoid process. You can see there, posterior clinoid process. Now we will see again. This posterior clinoid process gives attachment to the attached margin of the tentorium cerebelli, whereas anterior clinoid process gives to the free margin of tentorium cerebelli. If you look at here, that is the posterior clinoid process, that is the attached margin of tentorium cerebelli, and here you can see the free margin, and that is a U. Within the cavity of U, you will see tentorial notch. So here the free margin and attached margin cross, and there presents a trigone there, oculomotor trigone. You can see. Again I am just showing the limitations here. That is the free margin, attachment of free margin. This is the attachment of attached margin. So here you can see the free and attached margins of tentorium cerebelli cross each other, and a triangular area of meningeal layer of dura mater. Here the triangular area of meningeal layer of dura mater in front of the crossing is pierced by two nerves, oculomotor and trochlear. They pass through lateral wall of cavernous sinus here. This is called as, this reddish triangular area is called as oculomotor trigone. That is the triangular area of meningeal layer of dura mater in front of crossing of attached and free margins of tentorium cerebelli, pierced by what? Oculomotor and trochlear nerves. And below the posterior clinoid process here, the lateral margin of the dorsum sellae presents a process called as petrosal process, attaching the apex of the or tip of the petrous temporal bone to this by a petrosphenoid ligament. And beneath this petrosphenoid ligament, the abducent nerve pierces the dura mater and enters into the cavernous sinus. Whereas through oculomotor trigone, oculomotor nerve and trochlear nerve pierce the which wall of the cavernous sinus? Lateral wall. So lateral wall of cavernous sinus is related to maxillary nerve, ophthalmic nerve, trochlear and oculomotor. You remember that. Whereas abducent nerve pass through the groove beneath petrosphenoid ligament and enters the cavernous sinus directly. The two structures enter cavernous sinus on either side of the body of sphenoid, internal cavitary artery and this abducent nerve. You can see here, that is the carotid groove. You can see there, internal carotid artery. The italic F-shaped carotid groove is seen on either side of sella turcica. It lodges the internal carotid artery, surrounded by the plexus of sympathetic nerves. It comes from the carotid artery, passes at first upward through the opening of foraminal lacerum, that is foraminal lacerum, what you are seeing, greenish foramina, green margin foramina, that is foraminal lacerum. Then finally turns upward and medial to the anterior clinoid process, where it is held by the carotidoclinoid ligament. And this groove presents posterolaterally a projection called as lingula. It is a projection here that is called as lingula, a tongue-like projection that you see there. So this is about the median part. Now coming to the lateral part. Each lateral part of the middle cranial fossa is lodging the temporal lobes of the cerebral hemispheres, and it is formed by the cranial surface of greater wing of sphenoid here, petrous part of temporal bone, that is squamous part, and also you will see parietal part, anteroinferior angle of parietal bone you can say. You can see again here, greater wing of sphenoid, petrous part of temporal bone, and here it is squamous part. This is squamous part, what you see here, squamous part of the temporal bone. Temporal bone has different parts. You can see here how it is there. This is how you see the lateral parts, and you can see how the temporal lobes will be lodging here. That is the median part that we already discussed here. You can see that is lesser wing, and here is the greater wing, cranial surface of the greater wing, and in the midline that is body, lesser wing already you know. This is body, lesser wing, and on either side cranial surface of greater wing of sphenoid, and this greater wing is deeply concave. You can see here. So middle cranial fossa lateral part is mainly formed by the squamous part. This is petrous part of temporal bones and greater wing of sphenoid. So sphenoid and temporal bones, you can say, two parts of temporal, one part of sphenoid, and this greater wing of sphenoid is deeply concave along this crescentic line. You can see here it presents following foramina from before backward. Once you see here along this crescentic line, you can see along this crescentic line. It presents 4 openings here, that is superior orbital fissure between lesser wing and greater wing, foramina rotundum, foramina ovale, and just behind foramina ovale, foramina spinosum. It is called as foramina spinosum, that is superior orbital fissure, foramina rotundum, foramina ovale, foramina spinosum. It is called as spinosum because it is present in front of spine of sphenoid. Spine of sphenoid you see in the base of the skull, not in the interior here. So it presents 4 openings: superior orbital fissure, foramina rotundum. Rotundum means round. It is oval, foramina oval. It is spinosum because it is present in front of spine of sphenoid, that you see on the basal view, not here. So these are the 4 openings you will see along the crescentic margin in the greater wing of sphenoid. And when you see the superior orbital fissure here, you can see it is an oblique cleft which communicates this middle cranial fossa with the orbit. You can see that is the superior orbital fissure, oblique cleft, bounded above and medially by the lesser wing of sphenoid, below and laterally by the greater wing of sphenoid. You can see the medial margin of the orbital surface of the greater wing and medially by the body of sphenoid. And this superior orbital fissure is divided into 3 parts by the common tendinous ring, medial, intermediate and lateral parts by the common tendinous ring. You can see that is a ring. It divides this cleft into 3 parts: medial, intermediate and lateral. You can see there the lateral part transmits the 3 structures. You can see this is the superior orbital fissure. It is a very important communication. Oblique cleft, lesser wing of sphenoid above, greater wing and medially body of sphenoid, and you can see divided into 3 parts by common tendinous ring. Lateral part transmits this lacrimal nerve, frontal nerve and trochlear nerve, and lacrimal branch here of middle meningeal and superior ophthalmic vein, recurrent meningeal branch of the ophthalmic artery, you can see. And in the middle part you will see abducent nerve, nasociliary and oculomotor will pass. So you can see here the lateral part transmits 5, middle transmits 3, whereas the medial transmits inferior ophthalmic vein in the medial part. Remember that. So laterally 5 structures, middle 3 and medially 1. That is, when you go behind and laterally to superior orbital fissure, you will see foramina rotundum transmitting maxillary nerve, a branch of trigeminal. It passes through the lateral of cavernous sinus and enters the pterygopalpine fossa, where it forms the pterygopalpine ganglion. It passes through this foramina rotundum. So foramina rotundum present in the posterior wall of pterygopalpine fossa. Then you will see posterolateral to foramina rotundum, you will see foramina ovale. Already we have discussed, these are present in the crescentic line. And foramina ovale, it is oval shaped. It communicates the middle cranial fossa with infratemporal fossa below and transmits 4 structures, that is mandibular nerve. First you will see mandibular nerve, branch of again trigeminal. You can see there mandibular nerve. It will go into infratemporal fossa and supplies all the muscles of mastication. And then lesser petrosal nerve. It is lesser petrosal nerve is a branch of glossopharyngeal nerve, and axillary meningeal artery. It comes here from it is a branch of first part of maxillary artery in the infratemporal fossa. And lastly, emissary veins connecting pterygoid venous plexus with the cavernous sinus. So you can remember structure passing through foramina ovale as male: mandibular nerve, axillary meningeal artery, lesser petrosal nerve, emissary veins. And emissary veins are important. These emissary veins connect cavernous sinus with the pterygoid venous plexus within the infratemporal fossa. So foramen ovale mainly communicates middle cranial fossa with the infratemporal fossa below. Then coming posterolateral to foramen ovale is foramina spinosum. It also communicates the middle cranial fossa with the infratemporal fossa. It transmits three structures: middle meningeal artery, branch of first part of maxillary artery, middle meningeal nerve, branch of trunk of mandibular nerve, and middle meningeal sinus. So you can remember three M's here: M. Middle meningeal artery, vein, and nerve. So three M's will pass through foramina spinosum. And as you come here, you can see sometimes you will see a canalicus innominatus or foramina innominatum between oval and spinosum. Sometimes it may transmit lesser petrosal nerve if it doesn't pass through oval. And I told you lesser petrosal nerve is a branch of glossopharyngeal nerve. It acts as it transmits this preganglionic fibers to otic ganglion within the petrous temporal bone. And when you see the inner surface of this squamous temporal bone, it presents a groove for middle meningeal artery dividing into anterior and posterior divisions going in the respective grooves. And when you come to the anterior surface of the petrous temporal bone, it presents an impression here. This is the petrous temporal bone here. What you see, that is the squamous part. Squamous part overhangs the, or it forms the roof of the infratemporal fossa, and petrous part, it houses the parts of the ear, very important. And there is a trigeminal impression there, a shallow fossa close to the apex of the petrous temporal bone, posterolateral to foramina lacerum. It lodges the trigeminal ganglion in a pouch of dura mater that is called as cavum trigeminal. You can see posterolateral to foramina lacerum. So this impression is continuous behind, that affects the upper border of the petrous bone and lodges sensory and motor roots of the trigeminal nerve. You can see here the trigeminal nerve will divide into three divisions. Already you know these three divisions pass through different openings of the middle cranial fossa. What are three divisions? Ophthalmic will pass through supraorbital fissure, maxillary through foramina rotundum, mandibular through foramina ovale. Ophthalmic, maxillary, mandibular. Again, ophthalmic will divide into nasociliary, frontal and lacrimal. Frontal and lacrimal pass through lateral part of supraorbital fissure, nasociliary through middle part of supraorbital fissure, maxillary through foramen rotundum, mandibular through foramina ovale. So these are three divisions of the trigeminal nerve, what you see here. And as you go posterolateral here in the middle cranial fossa, there is an arcuate eminence overlying the anterior semicircular canal of the internal ear. Arcuate eminence found by anterior semicircular canal of the internal ear. And as you see here, you will see tegmen tympani, a thin plate of the bone which covers the roof of the middle ear, and also mastoid antrum, or you can say tympanic cavity. So it overhangs the mastoid antrum, tympanic cavity, and you can say bony part of the auditory tube. And lateral part will go and divide downward, and you will see squamotympanic fissure in the basal part. Tegmen tympani here presents two foramina, lateral and medial. Lateral, you can see lateral foramen transmits lesser petrosal nerve, branch of glossopharyngeal, passing through foramen ovale, it reaches the otic ganglion, whereas this medial foramen transmits greater petrosal nerve. Greater petrosal nerve is a branch of facial nerve. It joins with the sympathetic plexus covering the internal carotid artery. It forms the nerve of pterygoid canal or Vidian nerve, what we can say. You can see lesser petrosal nerve here coming from lesser, what you can say, the foramina in the tegmen tympani, lesser petrosal foramina, branch of glossopharyngeal. You can see here, whereas greater petrosal nerve coming through the greater petrosal foramina It is a branch of facial nerve and it joins with the sympathetic plexus around the internal cavitary artery and forms the Vidian nerve, or also called as nerve of pterygoid canal, that is there supplying the lateral of the nose. So you can see lesser petrosal branch of glossopharyngeal, greater petrosal branch of facial. So this is about the middle cranial fossa.